Sister, wife, please my mother drop your knife. It can result to a loss of a life. Do not violate a right. Oh, my daddy is a right. Do not force that to a knife.
Good day, viewers and listeners. My name is Mariama Jom. I am happy to welcome you to our virtual learning class on gender-based violence. This program is brought to you by the Network Against Gender-Based Violence in partnership with ActionAid International, The Gambia, with funding from Amplify Change. Class 6 will be presented by Lamin Kesedi, who will take us through child marriage, its forms and effects.
Hello viewers and listeners, I am Lamin Kesedi. I work for the Child Protection Alliance. I joined colleagues in the fight against COVID-19. And in this case, children are the most vulnerable, therefore calling on all parents to keep their children safe. My topic of discussion today is on child marriage. We know in this moment of lockdown, law enforcement becomes a challenge. Therefore, some parents may take advantage over this to give out their children out for marriage. But first, let's look at what child marriage really is and forced marriage. We are told child marriage is contracting a marriage that involves a child. In this case, a child is defined as a person under the age of 18. Forced marriage is a marriage conducted without the valid consent of both or one of the parties, where duress is involved. Meaning, for child marriage, it has to be within the age category of 18 years below. And for forced marriage, it has to do with consent of one or both parties absent. It usually involves varying degree of force, coercion, or deception, ranging from emotional pressure, where parents would threaten their children that if you don't, if you don't accept this relationship, we will abandon you. This would happen to you, and so forth. Sometimes also it's about, members of community may isolate you for the mere, reasons of rejecting that partner. The victim can be subject to physical or sexual abuse, including rape by the so-called husband. The national statistics on child marriage indicates that child marriage is one of the harmful traditional practices widely practiced in the Gambian community. And this goes across the board. According to the Demographic Health Survey, usually conducted by GIBOS 2013, 23.8% of Gambian women aged 14 to 19 are married, meaning they are in a union. 16% of women aged 20 to 49 married by the age 15. And 48% of women aged 20 to 49 married by age 18. This is staggering. According to MIX, the Multiple Cluster Indicator Survey, supported by UNICEF, conducted by GIBOS 2018, indicates that 30% of married women aged 20 to 49 married by age 18. 30% is a high number. Child marriage has serious consequences on the child and maternal health, child abuse, and on education, undoubtedly. Child marriage is strongly linked with the perpetuation of the poverty cycle on women. And the reason why we could not break the cycle of poverty is practices of this nature. Now, what does the law say about child marriage? According to Section 27 of the Constitution of the Gambia, men and women of full age and capacity shall have the right to marry and found a family. Very important and clear clause. But where the problem lies is, according to Section 24 of the Children's Act, or Children Amendment Act 2016, a child is not capable of contracting a valid marriage, and child marriage is prohibited in the Gambia. Clear. The language is very, very clear. Yes, under Section 27 of the Constitution, 1997 Constitution, marriage is about, full age and capacity. And now the Children Act, omitted children from that provision and said they cannot contract a valid marriage. They cannot contract a marriage. And marriage so contracted on their behalf shall be null and void. According to Section 28 of the Women's Act 2010, a girl child shall not be withdrawn from school by any parent or guardian for the purpose of marriage. This means it is an offense in the Gambia to contract a marriage involving a child, meaning a person under the age of 18. Now, under the same provision, it is also important to know that, in fact, the law also prohibits what we call child betrothal, because it becomes a recipe for, grooming, which is also prohibited by the, Children's Amendment Act. There are effects, no doubt. One is unwanted pregnancy, because at this stage, the child has not or is not psychologically prepared to bear a child. Conflicts between families may lead to dispute lasting for generations, because usually down the line, one party may really lose interest in the relationship, and once that happens, problems emanate, and the families will ever remain in conflict. There is unhappy, unstable, and loveless marriage. That is a disaster. Children growing in that relationship may be, may be exposed to a lot of risk, and it may have a lifelong impact on their lives. Discontinuation of schooling and other opportunities for the girls. We know evidently in the Gambia, most of the time, the young girls given out for marriage, at a school-going age. So once they are given out for marriage, the highest tendency is that their education discontinued. There is psychological stress on the girl, resulting in suicide or murder of the husband. We have instances of those in the Gambia where the child ended up, poisoning the husband, or the child herself ended up committing suicide. Domestic violence, wife beating. This is very prominent in such relationships where usually the girl child, out of options, not to be able to withdraw herself from that relationship, ended up really, doing things that will really make the other partner, offended, therefore resulting to most cases wife beating. Now here is the situation where you have factors in the circle. You see what we call factors that promote child marriage, and here on top there we have what we call cultural beliefs. Oftenly in our culture we believe that a child, has no place other than the marital home. The end result of every woman or a girl is in the kitchen. We usually have those beliefs that when a girl child is not married early, may not be able to bear a child. So we have a lot of those cultural beliefs around, child marriage. But again, also, we have religious misconceptions where it is believed that once at the age of maturity, you have to be given out for marriage, forgetting other factors that our religion has put into consideration. And in this case, oftenly, combination of culture and religious beliefs, people think the girl have no opinion in terms of marriage, resulting to child marriage and forced marriage. Poverty, where parents believe that, well, look, for me to get something, I need to give out my child for marriage. And this usually somebody who is a little bit better off than the family. They don't waste any time in giving out the child for marriage. But again, also for the purpose of dowry, because believing that at least dowry will be paid, so that money could be used by the family. So poverty also played a factor. But again, also aside from all that, some parents would really don't want to keep that child anymore with them. At least that will bring down the burden on them. So that all, is found under poverty. Ignorance. Well, it is widely believed that most parents don't also know the effect or do give less regard to the effects of this practice. Where the child goes into that union, the repercussion, the effects, most of the time they are not aware of these things, or they don't pay much attention to these issues. And oftenly what would happen is that the child will be subjected to battering, the child will be subjected to, a lot of other maltreatments, including health implications. Now, what do we do to end this practice? It's important to empower girls with information, skills, and support networks, mentorship programs, so that they become more assertive, so that society will also see them as valuable contributors. Because oftenly we also devalue the contribution of women and girls in our society. But with programs of this nature, they will be more assertive. They can communicate effectively their desires and wishes to parents or guardians. There's a possibility of saving them from that. Now, the legal measures also are very important. In this case, I did cite the Children Amendment Act of 2016, the Women's Act of 2010, the Sexual Offences Act, and so forth, are all laws that really protects children. So it is one thing to have the laws in place, but another thing to enforce those laws. So legal measures would have to include establish and implement laws and policies, provide economic support and incentives for girls and their families. I think this would also, to a greater extent, help, particularly economic empowerment programs. Now, an organization called Girls Not Brides issued a position paper on COVID-19, and it has expressed, greatly that child marriage in this situation of lockdown is likely to increase in our communities, and therefore call on governments to take up measures, and these measures varies in terms of surveillance, in terms of paying attention to situations of child marriage, in terms of ensuring that there is what we call vigilance within our communities. Now, the global pandemic of COVID-19 presents unprecedented challenges for us all. Therefore, a lot of children and families are sitting at home, those vulnerable to be married off during this period. The tendencies are very high. And in the Gambia, I think in the past 2-3 weeks, we have about 3 incidences that I'm aware of myself, where a school head girl at the age of 15, was given out for marriage, but with the intervention of the community, the reports came out, it was reported, and actions were taken to save that child. Imagine, this is a child who, has the potential of becoming something in this country. We know becoming a head girl of a school, really goes with a lot of challenges, and a lot of factors may have been looked into before one occupies such a high position in the school. And this is a child whose life was almost cut short. Now, the way forward is to report any suspected case of child marriage by calling 199 free hotline, or report the case to the nearest police station. At the police stations, we have what we call police child welfare officers, the Department of Social Welfare, the state institution mandated to handle affairs of children, the Child Protection Alliance, the Network Against Gender-Based Violence. Now, in conclusion, as the central message of the UN Global Study on Violence Against Children, commissioned by the UN General Assembly, the finding of that report indicates that, or the central message of that report states that no violence against a child is justifiable, and all violence against children are preventable. Thank you for your kind attention.
My name is Omar Baji. I'm the Executive Director of ActionAid, the Gambia. And today I want to talk to you about early child marriage and the effects and harms that it does to children, girl children particularly. children are the future of the country, particularly the girl child. And what we need to focus on is to make sure that the girl child is sent to school so that she's educated for the future of this country. Because if the girl child is sent for marriage, it means her future is actually disturbed. And well, because she is also young and physically not fit for marriage, it can affect her mentally and psychologically. So what I'm advising is that we should focus on ensuring that the child is actually sent to school. She goes through the cycle of education, completes it, and get engaged so that she can contribute, just like the boy child, to the development of the country. Children should not be brides. Children should be supported and protected to make sure that they grow up in an environment that is conducive and for their mental and physical development. Is particularly important during this period of COVID-19, when children are not going to school and many parents are also not going to work. So we are all together in the house. So the tendency is that sometimes you want to send your child away to marriage, so that the responsibility of taking care of the child goes off your shoulders. I think that should not be the case. Every parent, every guardian should make sure that children under their custody are really given all the protection they need and all the support they need so that they can go through their own development. And I also advise and call on all institutions, all organizations, government, civil society, and private sector to develop child safeguarding, child protection policies to make sure that the institution is taking its responsibility for protecting children, whether in schools and even at home and anywhere within society. So that's my message, and I would like everybody, all institutions and individuals, to join ActionAid and the Network Against Gender-Based Violence in fighting against early child marriage in the Gambia. Thank you very much.
She's a sister, she's a wife. Please, my mother, drop your knife. It can result to a loss of her life. Do not violate her right. Oh, my daddy is a right. Do not force her to annihilate my way.